Elizabeth was 35 when her life fell apart. She had been married for 7 long years. She tried again and again to have a baby, but it never happened. Then one day, her husband left. He didn't say goodbye. He just left a small note on the kitchen table. The note said, "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." And just like that, he was gone. She read the note many times. She hoped it would change, but it didn't. She felt so alone after that. Elizabeth felt shame and heartbreak. Her dreams were falling apart. She wanted to be a mother more than anything. But now she was alone. No husband, no children, no family. She asked herself many questions. Who was she without him? Who was she without a family? But Elizabeth was strong. She didn't stay sad forever. One day she was helping at a place for children who needed homes. There she met 5 boys who changed everything. They were brothers. All of them were under 10 years old. They wore old clothes that didn't match. Their eyes were full of questions. Their parents had died in a fire. Now they had no one. Their family didn't want them. No one wanted to take care of 5 children at once. One worker said they were a package deal no one wants. Elizabeth looked at them. She saw more than just lost children. She saw something she knew well: pain, fear. The kind of quiet that comes when people say no to you too many times. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about their faces. She thought about how she always wanted to be a mother. That dream had been taken from her, but now here was a chance. It wasn't the perfect life she had dreamed of, but it was real love knocking on her door. She didn't have much money. She had a small house and no husband to help. But she had a heart full of love, and that love was screaming to be used. So she made a choice. One by one, she brought them home. First came David. He was the oldest. He was shy, but he protected the others. Then came Michael. He was quiet and always watching everything. Next came the twins, Benjamin and Daniel. They were troublemakers, but they had smiles that could light up any room. Last came baby Emmanuel. He was only 5 years old. His cheeks were so soft you wanted to pinch them. The first days were crazy. School fees cost a lot of money. Sometimes there wasn't enough food. She didn't sleep much at night. There were tantrums and broken things, scraped knees and many trips to the doctor. When they became teenagers, it was like storms. They got angry. Voices got loud. Doors slammed like thunder. But something beautiful was growing through all the mess. There were times when they danced in the rain. They were barefoot and laughing like wild things. They sang together on Sundays. Gospel music filled their tiny living room. They ate rice and told stories over hot plates of food. Elizabeth taught them how to tie ties, how to say sorry, how to cook, and most important, how to love. She wasn't perfect. Some days she cried quietly in the bathroom. She felt overwhelmed and unsure, but she never gave up. Every hug, every scolding, every bedtime story was given with real mother's love. And slowly the boys began to do well. David got into college with help paying for it. Michael started his own tech blog that people liked online. The twins opened a small clothing business that did really well. Emmanuel, the baby, was amazing at music. Everyone was surprised by how good he was. As the years went by, they moved out. Some even left the country for work and school. But no matter where life took them, they always came back home to her. Elizabeth's little house stayed their safe place. It was filled with memories and laughter. She never asked for anything back. To her, seeing them happy was enough reward. Time moved like a river, quiet at first, then rushing before you could blink. Elizabeth's hair turned grey. Her hands showed the years of cooking, cleaning, and caring. But her spirit stayed strong. She watched with pride as her boys became men. They stood tall not just in height, but in character. David became a respected engineer. People knew him for his calm mind and steady leadership. Michael built a name for himself in tech. He created apps that helped communities connect and grow. The twins, Benjamin and Daniel, grew their clothing business across borders. They dressed celebrities and important people. Emmanuel, the baby with the golden voice, became a rising star in music. He touched hearts with songs about struggle, hope, and love. They traveled the world, but every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering brought them back to one person: the person who made it all possible. Elizabeth, she never asked for anything, not a gift, not even a thank you. But deep down, she dreamed of something more than the small house she had lived in for over 30 years. It was worn now, the roof leaked when it rained. The floor made noise when you walked on it. The paint had faded long ago. Still, she never complained. On the morning of her 60th birthday, she woke up to the smell of fresh bread and coffee. Her boys had come home, all 5 of them. They filled the house with laughter and talking. They teased each other like they were still children. She smiled, watching them from her seat on the old wooden bench outside. Life had been hard, but this moment was everything she ever wanted. Then David stepped forward. He was holding something wrapped in white cloth. "Mama," he said softly, "we have something for you." The others came around her. Their eyes were full of excitement. She looked at them, confused but curious. Gifts were rare. She always told them not to waste money on her. But this wasn't a small gift. David unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a large silver key tied to a ribbon. Elizabeth blinked. "What is this?" she asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Michael smiled. "It's yours now." Benjamin and Daniel stepped aside. They showed her a van parked just outside the gate. Inside were pictures. Beautiful, shiny pictures of a brand new house. It was big and modern. It had white walls, wide windows, and a garden full of flowers. "We built it together," Emmanuel said, kneeling beside her. "For you, for us, for our family." Tears filled her eyes. She couldn't speak. Her heart pounded in her chest like it was trying to escape. All those years of giving without expecting anything back had led to this moment. I don't know what to say," she finally said. Her voice was shaking. "You don't have to say anything," David said gently. "We just want you to know we remember everything. Every night you stayed up worrying about school fees. Every time you cooked with whatever was left so we could eat. Every hug, every scolding, every prayer. You gave us everything when no one else would." They helped her stand. They guided her toward the van. As they drove away from the house she had called home for so many years, she looked back one last time, not with sadness, but with thanks. That house held memories, laughter, tears, growth, pain, and love. So much love. The new house was everything Elizabeth never knew she deserved. Her boys had built the house with more than just bricks and wood. They built it with thanks, memory, and purpose. She moved in slowly. She touched the walls like they might disappear under her fingers. There was a large kitchen where she could cook for all of them again, a wide living room where they could gather like old times, and a garden filled with roses, her favorite flowers. But the surprises didn't stop there. Weeks after moving in, David sat beside her on the porch one evening. The sky was turning orange. "Mama," he began, "we want to do something special." She looked at him, curious. "We want to give you something else, something that belongs to you." Michael walked out with a thick folder. He handed it to her carefully. "What is this?" she asked. "A gift," Daniel said. "A promise," Benjamin added. Emmanuel smiled. "From us to you." She opened the folder and froze. Inside were papers. Official ones, signed and sealed. A trust fund set up in her name. All 5 of them had put money into it. Enough to make sure she never had to worry about anything again. Medical care, travel, even a small business if she ever wanted to start one. "You did this for me," she whispered. They all nodded. "We owe you everything," David said. "You gave us life when we had none. Now it's our turn to make sure you live well." Tears spilled down her cheeks. Not tears of sadness or even joy, but of deep, unshakable fulfillment. This was not how her life was supposed to go. Once she had dreamed of a husband and children of her own, a family built from blood. Instead, life had given her pain, rejection, and silence. But then came 5 little boys who needed her more than anyone ever had. And through them, she found herself. Months after her 60th birthday, something else happened. Unexpected, almost hard to believe. One by one, each of the boys decided to get married, but not separately. Instead, they made a decision that shocked everyone. They planned a grand wedding. 5 grooms, 5 brides, one amazing day. A celebration not just of love, but of the woman who had taught them what love really meant. The wedding became the talk of the area. 5 nice suits, 5 glowing brides, music that echoed through the clouds, and a front row seat saved for one person only, Elizabeth. Dressed in royal blue, she sat with tears in her eyes and pride in her chest. The person running the ceremony didn't even start with the couples, he started with her. Before we celebrate these 5 men, let's honor the queen who raised them alone, strong and full of grace. The crowd stood up, applause thundered, and for the first time, Elizabeth heard strangers call her a queen. After the wedding, photos of the event spread like wildfire. People wrote articles about her, organizations reached out. A publisher offered to turn her story into a book. She smiled at all of it, not for fame, but because her quiet giving had finally found a voice. Now, every Sunday, she hosts lunch for her sons and their families. The once quiet house is now filled again with children's laughter. Spilled juice and toy cars under the table. Her grandchildren call her Mama Beth. Neighbors call her the Mother of Kings. And Elizabeth? She calls herself grateful. She didn't get the life she prayed for. She got something greater. She didn't just adopt 5 boys, she raised 5 kings. Elizabeth's journey shows that every life has purpose, even when it feels empty or broken. She wasn't chosen by fate, but her decision to love when no one else would changed everything. With no husband, no wealth, and no clear path, she stepped into uncertainty with nothing but compassion. And that was enough. Her story reminds us that worth isn't decided by society's labels. Elizabeth was once seen as childless, unwanted, forgotten, but in the eyes of 5 boys, she became everything. A guide, a protector, a mother. Love doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It grows in the mess, in the hard days, in the quiet moments of giving. And what we give freely, without expecting anything back, often returns to us in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. Family, as Elizabeth proved, isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, and who gives their heart completely. Her pain did not define her, her choices did. And in choosing love, she built a legacy far greater than anything she ever imagined. Because sometimes, what the world needs most is someone brave enough to care. If this story moved your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more powerful real-life tales that inspire. Thank you very much for watching.
Please tell me, are you enjoying the story? If so, tell me what lessons have you actually learned? I would really love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. And remember to support this channel, please subscribe, like the video, comment, just say something, even a word could literally mean a whole lot. So I want you to tell me what lessons have you learned from this story. Trust me, these are situations that most people actually go through. I'm sure some of you that are watching this story have actually gone through this situation. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you dealt with a situation that you were faced with.
A childless woman who opened her heart and home to 5 unwanted boys. A single mother who raised them with blood, sweat, and soul. And on her 60th birthday, she stood speechless as her sons handed her the keys to a brand new house, built in her honor by their love. But life wasn't done writing miracles for her yet. A year after Elizabeth's 5 adopted sons got married on the same day, their 5 wives all gave birth in the same year. But in different months, and David's wife, the eldest son's wife, gave birth to twin girls. David named them after the woman who gave up everything so he and his 4 younger brothers could live and have a good life. He named the twin girls Eliza and Beth to honor Elizabeth. Not because they sounded beautiful, but because those 2 names represented one woman. The woman who had given up everything so he and his brothers could have a future. Elizabeth, now 61, held each grandchild with shaking hands and tear-filled eyes. In 1 year, Elizabeth, who was once without children, welcomed 6 adorable grandchildren into her family. 4 girls and 2 boys. The joyful news quickly spread and became the talk of the whole area once again. The entire region talked about her journey again. How she had turned pain into purpose, loneliness into legacy. But fate wasn't done testing her heart. One afternoon, while returning from her youngest son Emmanuel's house, Elizabeth spotted a small crowd gathered near her street. Curious, she told her driver to stop. As she stepped out, her eyes landed on something that would haunt her forever. a 7-year-old boy lying unconscious on the ground, still in his school uniform. His older sister, just 9 years old, stood beside him. Tears were streaming down her face. "He collapsed," the girl whispered. "He was crying because he was hungry." Elizabeth didn't hesitate. She rushed the boy to the hospital herself. But it was too late. Despite every effort, the boy passed away in the hospital, alone, hungry, and forgotten. Elizabeth broke down. She cried as if he were her own grandson, as if she had lost a piece of herself. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Elizabeth couldn't sleep. Her heart and mind were deeply troubled. She cried all through the night because of the little boy's death. At 5 in the morning, a thought came to her. A powerful idea to open a free restaurant on her street, to feed poor school children from Monday to Friday. She decided to call her sons through a family WhatsApp group. She shared what had happened to the little boy. She told them about her plan to open a free restaurant on her street for poor school children. Her sons were deeply moved and overjoyed by her decision. They promised to help with money, supplies, and emotions. After that, they began planning the building of the restaurant. A few months later, everything was ready. The restaurant was officially opened. They named it Mummy's King's Free Restaurant. They hired chefs and workers to serve meals to the children. Every day after school, children from the neighborhood rushed there, full of laughter, energy, and for once, full stomachs. As a result, many of the children started going to school happily and regularly, especially those who used to skip school because of hunger. One day, all the parents and guardians of the school children came together. They bought special gifts to show their thanks to Elizabeth for all she had done for their children. Not long after, the restaurant went viral on social media. People everywhere were deeply moved by Elizabeth's kindness. Many began sending support. Some sent money, others donated food items. Some even volunteered to pay the staff salaries. Several food companies also promised to supply the restaurant with food every month. Soon, the storage room was filled with all kinds of food and cooking supplies. Then came Christmas. Her sons, their wives, and all 6 grandchildren returned home. Together, they decided to give back even more: food, clothes, gifts, handing them out with joy. As Elizabeth served with a smile, her eyes caught something in the crowd that made her freeze. A man struggling to reach the food. She wiped her eyes, blinked hard, and looked again. And then, time stood still. It was him, Samuel, the man who had left her 27 years ago. The father who walked away when she couldn't give him children. The man she hadn't seen since the day he vanished. Heart pounding, she took a step closer, then another. And finally, she tapped him gently on the shoulder. He turned, and what she saw next made her scream. Elizabeth screamed, but not from fear. From shock, from pain, from a wound that had never truly healed, suddenly reopened. Standing before her was Samuel, the man who once called her wife, who once kissed her on their wedding day and promised to love her for better or worse. But this wasn't the man she remembered. The Samuel she knew was strong, proud, full of life. The one standing before her now was broken, thin, worn, with eyes that carried years of regret and sorrow. His face had aged beyond recognition. His clothes were ragged. His hands shook. He looked at her, really looked at her. Something in his expression shifted. It was like he saw not just her face, but everything they had lost. "Elizabeth," he whispered. His voice was hoarse and barely heard over the Christmas crowd. She didn't speak. She couldn't. All those years ago, she had cried herself to sleep, wondering what she had done wrong. Wondering if there had been a moment, even just 1 second, when he had looked back and felt sorry. Now, here he was, standing in line for food, a man who once walked away from comfort, from love, from home. Without a word, Elizabeth turned and walked away. Her sons noticed immediately. David caught up first. "Mama, what's wrong?" She shook her head. Not now. They respected her silence, though concern filled their eyes. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Gifts were given, laughter filled the air, children danced, her grandchildren clung to her legs. They didn't know about the storm raging inside her heart. That night, alone in her room, she sat by the window again. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to remember. She remembered the warmth of his touch, the sound of his laughter, the pain of waking up to an empty house and a note that ended a marriage. And now, after 27 years, he had returned. Not as a husband, not as a man of pride, but as a stranger in need. The next morning, Elizabeth made a decision. She called David and Michael into her room and explained everything to them. "I want to know where he's staying," she said. Her sons looked at each other. "You sure?" Michael asked gently. She nodded. "I've spent my whole life wondering why he left. I deserve to hear it from him." David left immediately. By afternoon, he returned. "He just moved to this area last week to work as a gatekeeper. He's staying near the market. He lost everything," David said softly. Elizabeth stood quietly for a long moment. Then she said, "Take me to him." David wanted to say no, but he didn't. Neither did Michael. Minutes later, they arrived at the tiny gatekeeper's room. Samuel was sitting on a worn-out chair, staring at the floor. He looked up when they entered. Shock flashed in his eyes. Elizabeth stepped forward. No anger, no tears, just quiet strength. "I want to know," she said softly. "Why did you leave me?" Samuel looked at Elizabeth. For the first time in 27 years, he had no place to hide. No lies. No excuses. Just the truth, raw, painful, and long overdue. He stood slowly. His body was weak, his voice shaking. "I left," he began, "because I was ashamed." Elizabeth didn't flinch. "I couldn't handle it," he continued. "The treatment's failing, the looks from people, the way you cried at night thinking I couldn't hear you. I felt like less of a man, like I couldn't give you the life we dreamed of." His eyes filled with tears. "I told myself walking away was the only way to set you free. That maybe someone else could make you happy. Someone who could give you children." Elizabeth listened quietly. Her face showed nothing. Then she spoke. "You didn't set me free," she said. "You broke me." Her voice wasn't angry. It was heavy with pain, with time, with everything they had lost. "I spent years wondering what I did wrong, wondering if I wasn't enough. But the truth is," she paused, looking him straight in the eyes, "you just gave up." David and Michael stayed silent. They watched their mother, the woman who raised 5 unwanted boys into men of purpose. Now she was facing the ghost of her past. Samuel dropped his head. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he whispered. "But I've carried this regret every single day. I watched you from far away sometimes, saw how you raised those boys, how you became more than a mother. You became a queen." Elizabeth sighed deeply. "I forgave you a long time ago," she said softly. "Not because you deserved it, but because I needed to stop letting your choice define my life." She turned to her sons. "This man is not my husband anymore," she said, "but he's still human. And right now, he needs help." David and Michael nodded, and without hesitation, they offered Samuel a place to stay. Not out of obligation, but out of love. The same love that had built their lives, the same love that had fed hungry children, the same love that had turned a broken woman into a legend. In the weeks that followed, Elizabeth helped Samuel rebuild his life gently, carefully. He started working again. Small jobs at first, then more meaningful ones. A year passed, and slowly, like a forgotten song finding its rhythm again, Samuel's life began to change. With the support of Elizabeth and her sons, he found work, then purpose. Then, unexpectedly, opportunity knocked. And this time he was ready. His small business grew steadily, not because of luck, but because of humility, hard work, and the second chance he never thought he'd get. One afternoon, he stood at the gate of Elizabeth's home, not as the man who once walked away, but as one forever changed by the woman who chose mercy over bitterness. He stepped inside, walked up to her, and without hesitation, knelt before her. "Thank you, Ma," he said. His voice was thick with emotion, "for transforming my life." Elizabeth looked at him with soft eyes. No anger, no regret, only peace. She reached out gently and touched his shoulder. "I didn't do anything for you," she said softly, "but God did. All the glory and honor belongs to Him. Because it's not about what we want or what we run after. It's about the mercy that finds us when we least deserve it." Samuel lowered his head. For the first time in decades, he smiled, not for himself, but because he finally understood the kind of love she had always known. A love that doesn't walk away. A love that feeds the hungry. A love that forgives. A love that builds kings. Love doesn't need permission or perfection. It only needs a willing heart. Elizabeth wasn't given the life she dreamed of, but she chose to love anyway. 5 unwanted boys, a dying stranger, even the man who left her behind. Her story teaches us that real love isn't about timing or conditions. It's about showing up, opening your heart, and refusing to let pain be the end of your purpose. True strength is found in forgiveness, not for others, but for yourself. Elizabeth forgave Samuel not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. Holding on to anger only kept her chained to the past. Her journey shows that forgiveness is not weakness, it is freedom. It's the moment you choose to stop letting someone else's choices define your happiness. Legacy is built not by blood, but by choice, sacrifice, and impact. Elizabeth didn't give birth to kings. She raised them. She didn't just feed hungry children. She changed lives. Her legacy wasn't written in grand palaces or titles, but in meals served, tears wiped, and hearts healed. This story reminds us that the greatest mark we leave on the world isn't through wealth or fame, but through the love we give and the lives we lift. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button. Share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Thank you very much for watching.
If you made it to the end of part 2 of this thrilling story, then all I can say is congratulations and thank you. These videos really take a lot of time to make, but you guys' support really keep me going. Comments below and share this video with your friends and family. Also, like and subscribe to the channel so that you'll be the first to be notified when I drop a new video.
A year after Elizabeth and her sons helped rebuild the life of the man who once left her behind. The same man who walked away 27 years ago, disappearing like a shadow the moment she needed him most. Now he stood in her home again. He dropped to his knees. "Thank you," he said. His voice was shaking. "Mother of Kings, thank you for changing my life." Elizabeth looked at him, not with anger, not with pain, but with peace. She touched his shoulder gently. "I didn't do anything for you," she whispered. "God did. All the praise goes to him. Because life isn't about what we want or how hard we try. It's about mercy. It's about someone choosing to lift you up when you're too broken to stand." That night, as she lay in bed, Elizabeth closed her eyes and let the memories come. Not the pain of being left behind, but the love they once shared. The laughter, the dreams, the moments that made her believe in him before he disappeared. And now, after all these years, she finally found peace. That night, as Elizabeth drifted off to sleep, something deep within her heart awakened. She fell into a dream. Not just any dream, but a vivid journey through time. It was like watching a movie of her life with Samuel, only this time she wasn't remembering the pain. She saw them again, young, in love, full of hope. She dreamed of the day they met, how his smile made her forget everything else. She dreamed of the sacrifices he made, like selling everything he had to make sure she graduated from school, skipping meals so she could eat, working late just to keep her dreams alive. She dreamed of the moment he gave her the greatest gift anyone could give, his kidney. 35 years ago, when illness nearly took her life, he didn't hesitate. He begged the doctors to take whatever they needed from him just to save her. She dreamed of him selling his father's land, not for himself, not for comfort, but to pay her hospital bills. Without telling her until months later, she dreamed of their wedding, the joy, the tears, the promises whispered under the stars. And then, their honeymoon, 2 souls wrapped in love, believing they would face every storm together. One after another, the memories came. Raw, real, beautiful. It was as if her heart was finally ready to remember, not just the hurt, but the love that came before it. And for the first time in years. It was already 10 in the morning, and Elizabeth was still asleep. Her servants were deeply worried. They knocked on her door again and again, calling out to her. But there was no response. Growing more concerned by the minute, they called Elizabeth's 2 eldest sons, David and Michael. Though the brothers lived in different towns, they both answered right away. The servants explained the situation. The worry in their voices matched what David and Michael were feeling. Without delay, David gave instructions. He told the gatekeeper and driver to break into her room to check on her. As soon as the call ended, David ordered his driver to take him to the nearest airport so he could catch a flight to his mother's house. Back at Elizabeth's house, the gatekeeper and driver were preparing to force the door open. Suddenly, Elizabeth woke up with a jolt. She looked at the clock. It was 11:50 in the morning. Still confused, she gasped loudly, "Jesus, what happened to me?" When she picked up her phone, Elizabeth was shocked to see more than 50 missed calls and messages from her 5 sons and their wives. Tears filled her eyes as she held the phone tightly. Just then, David called again, and this time she answered. Hearing her voice brought a wave of relief to him. "Mommy," he said. His voice was shaking with emotion. "What happened?" "You scared us so much, I almost lost my mind." Elizabeth explained that she had just been sleeping deeply. She only realized the time when she woke up. She was shocked at how late it was and at all the missed calls. David sighed deeply before speaking again. "I'm just so thankful to God for your life, Mommy. Everyone was worried sick. As a matter of fact, I was on my way to the airport to book a flight to come to you when you finally answered." As she spoke with David, the other 4 sons and their wives were still calling non-stop. When she finally connected with Michael, he told her he was already at the airport. He was trying to secure a flight to be with her. After speaking with all of them and calming their fears, Elizabeth sat quietly, finally alone. Her heart was still stirred. She kept thinking about the dream, the memories, the love, the pain. It felt too real to be just a dream. "There's something deeper behind this," she whispered to herself. "This wasn't just an ordinary dream. I need to speak with my pastor." A few hours later, Elizabeth visited her pastor's home. She shared everything, the vivid dream, the emotions it stirred, and the strange way she had woken up so late in the day. As she spoke, the pastor listened closely. Then he prayed for her, deeply, passionately. When he finished, he looked at her with a serious expression. "Mama Elizabeth," he said, "you need to call your former husband, Samuel, and all 5 of your sons to come here. There is something important God wants to reveal, and it concerns all of you." Elizabeth listened carefully. Her heart was pounding. When she returned home, she called her sons immediately. Without hesitation, David and Michael, who were already in the country, agreed to come. Daniel, Benjamin, and Emmanuel, who were living abroad, begged to join the meeting through a video call. They didn't want to miss what God was about to do. Eventually, a date was set. The stage was ready. Everyone could feel it. Something big was about to happen. The next morning, Elizabeth called for Samuel and told him about the meeting with the pastor. As he was about to leave, she gently asked a question that had been on her heart. "Samuel, after we separated, why did you never remarry?" He paused. A heavy sigh escaped his lips. Then he spoke. "I did get married," he said quietly. 5 years after I left you." He continued, his voice thick with memory. "The woman gave birth to 2 children. For 10 years I believed they were mine." His eyes dimmed as the pain returned. Then one of the children fell seriously ill and needed a blood transfusion. When I went to donate, the doctor told me my blood type didn't match the child's. He swallowed hard. That's when I decided to do a DNA test. The results came back. He looked down. I wasn't their biological father. Silence filled the space between them. "I was preparing to confront my wife," he went on, "when she struck me with a sickness so severe I nearly died." Elizabeth listened, her heart sinking. "When I was hospitalized," Samuel continued, "she abandoned me. She sold everything. My properties, emptied my bank accounts, took all my documents, even my certificates. She disappeared with the children without a trace." His voice cracked. "I nearly lost my life in that hospital, and when I finally recovered, I had nothing. I was back at 0. He looked into Elizabeth's eyes. "I struggled for years. Every job I tried failed. Without my certificates, I couldn't find proper work. I was broken, alone, forgotten." He took a deep breath. "But today, I thank God from the bottom of my heart, because He brought me back to you, because He showed me mercy, and because you, the woman I once walked away from, became the reason I found hope again. I'm grateful to God," he whispered, "for showing me mercy, and for reconnecting me to you." Elizabeth listened quietly. Her heart was full of compassion. She looked at Samuel and said gently, "It's okay, Samuel. I'm just glad you're alive. All thanks and glory belong to God Almighty. He truly deserves all the praise." 3 days later, David and Michael arrived as planned for the meeting with the pastor. A few hours after that, Elizabeth, her 2 sons, and Samuel got into the car. They made their way to the pastor's house. The time had come. Whatever God wanted to reveal, they were ready to hear it together. As the meeting began, Elizabeth's other 3 sons joined via Zoom from abroad: Daniel, Benjamin, and Emmanuel. The room, both physical and virtual, was filled with anticipation. The pastor looked at Elizabeth and Samuel with deep respect. "Madam Elizabeth, everything that happened between you and your husband was not by accident," he said. "It was all according to God's will. It was part of his divine plan." He continued gently, "Ma, sir, your purpose on earth was never about having children of your own blood. Your assignment was to raise these 5 boys, to turn them into the men they are today. That was your calling." He took a breath before revealing what shook them both to their core. "The reason God separated you for 27 years, the pastor went on, was because of something Samuel said one night, the night before he vanished." Elizabeth listened in stunned silence. "You had suggested adoption," the pastor explained. "You remember? After 7 years of marriage without children, you brought up the idea of adopting a boy and a girl." Samuel's eyes widened. "Mr. Samuel responded strongly," the pastor continued. He said, "God forbid. I will never raise someone else's children. Over my dead body, I want my own flesh and blood." A heavy silence fell over the room. "That very statement," the pastor said, "was why God had to separate you. Because he knew if you had stayed together, Elizabeth would never have been able to fulfill her purpose. She would have tried to honor your words, and those 5 boys would have remained forgotten." Tears rolled down Elizabeth's face. Samuel dropped his head, overwhelmed. Everything, the pain, the loneliness, the separation. It wasn't random. It was preparation, for destiny, for purpose, for kings to rise. The pastor continued. His voice was steady and full of revelation. "When God saw that Samuel was becoming a stumbling block to the purpose he had for you, Elizabeth, he had to separate him from you, not out of punishment, but protection. Protection of your destiny." He looked at both of them with deep compassion. God respected Samuel's choice, the pastor said, and allowed him to walk through life as he wished. But all the while he was preparing you, giving you the space, the strength, and the opportunity to raise those 5 boys. He paused before delivering the final truth. "Now, God has brought you both back together because his will has been fulfilled. The goal was accomplished. Those 5 children who were once forgotten are now thriving. Because of you, Elizabeth." His tone softened. "And now, it's time for you two to continue the journey you began together so many years ago." A sacred silence filled the room. "You were meant to be together," the pastor said. "That's why neither of you remarried. That's why no one else could take the place of the other." The pastor opened his Bible and read Isaiah 55 from verse 8 to 9. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Elizabeth and Samuel sat in quiet awe. No blame, no shame, only understanding, only grace, only God who turns pain into purpose, who makes broken paths into highways of hope, and who, in his perfect timing, brings home what was lost. Samuel had been ignorant, the pastor continued. He didn't understand his purpose, why God created him. If he had known, he never would have made that one statement that led to 27 years of pain, struggle, and a miserable life. The man of God spoke with deep wisdom. "Sometimes," he said, "we don't realize the power of our words. One careless word can destroy lives. One wrong statement can change destinies." He looked straight at Samuel. "We must be careful with what we say, especially when it comes to the plans of God. Because once spoken, those words can block blessings, delay purpose, and bring years of unnecessary suffering." Silence filled the room as everyone absorbed the truth. A powerful reminder echoed in their hearts: be mindful of the words you speak, because a single word can open doors or shut them for a lifetime. Elizabeth, her 4 sons, and Samuel were all overcome with emotion. Tears flowed freely, not from pain, but from revelation. After a long moment of silence, broken only by soft sobs, Elizabeth finally spoke. "That's why," she whispered. Her voice was trembling with awe. "I could never stop using the name Samuel as my surname. Even when he was gone, I couldn't let it go." She looked at her sons, the 5 kings she raised. "And all my children carry the same name," she continued. "Even when it didn't make sense, God was still writing his story through us." A deep hush fell over the room. Then she added softly, almost to herself, "God truly works in mysterious ways." After that powerful moment, the pastor stepped forward. With prayer, with love, and with divine purpose, he officially brought back together the family that had been separated for over 27 years. A new chapter had begun, not just for Elizabeth and Samuel, but for the entire family God had always planned to reunite. A few months later, Elizabeth and Samuel remarried, not just as husband and wife, but as partners reborn through grace. Their 5 sons and their families gathered joyfully to celebrate, dancing, laughing, and honoring the love that had been restored. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a reunion of destiny. From that moment on, the family began experiencing massive breakthroughs like never before. Doors of favor swung wide open, opportunities poured in, blessings overflowed. Elizabeth and Samuel traveled together, worked together, and served together. They touched lives wherever they went. They fed the hungry, comforted the lonely, supported orphans, and stood with widows. They continued the legacy of love that had always defined them. When Elizabeth turned 63, her life's work caught the attention of the nation. She was appointed by the federal government as the Minister of Humanitarian and Women's Affairs. This was in recognition of the countless lives she had lifted from poverty and despair. It was a moment of honor, not for power, but for purpose. A woman once broken by life, now leading at the highest level, still serving with the same heart that once opened its doors to 5 unwanted boys. And as the years passed, Elizabeth, Samuel, and their growing family lived together in happiness, health, and harmony. Surrounded by grandchildren, loved by many, inspiring all. Your pain is not your end. It could be the setup for your greatest purpose. Elizabeth was once broken, abandoned, and childless. But from that pain came a legacy. 5 boys raised into kings, countless lives changed, and a nation inspired. Your deepest wounds can become your highest calling. The words you speak have power. They can build or destroy destinies. Samuel's careless words cost him 27 years of joy, peace, and family. Be mindful of what you say, especially about your future. Because words shape worlds. God's plans are higher than our understanding, but they're always good. What seemed like abandonment was actually divine preparation. What felt like rejection was redirection toward destiny. Trust God, even when you don't understand the path. True kindness never goes unnoticed. The world may not see it, but heaven always rewards it. Elizabeth spent years quietly serving others, raising 5 unwanted boys, feeding hungry children, forgiving a broken man, and giving without expecting anything in return. She didn't do it for recognition. She didn't serve for applause. She gave because her heart was full of love. And yet, God honored her, not with riches alone, but with influence. Not with fame, but with favor. Not with titles, but with a purpose far greater than she imagined. Elizabeth's life teaches us that when you live to lift others, the world will eventually rise to meet you. Not because you demanded it, but because you deserved it. Mercy changes more lives than judgment ever could. Elizabeth forgave, loved, and restored instead of holding on to bitterness. Her mercy didn't just heal Samuel, it transformed generations. Legacy is not about blood, it's about impact. Elizabeth didn't give birth to kings, she raised them. She fed the hungry, lifted the poor, and served the forgotten. That's the truest kind of legacy, one built on love and service. If this story moved your heart, changed your perspective, or gave you hope, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button. Drop a comment with your favorite moment. Share this video with someone who needs strength today. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more life-changing stories like this one. Because sometimes the strongest among us aren't those born into greatness. They're the ones who rise through pain and choose love anyway. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed, stay inspired. Until next time.